Okay, well, good afternoon again. My name is Kathy Nothnagel, and I am the content manager here at GiveSmart by Community Brands. And we're really excited to have all of you listening today and joining us. Today is episode 3 in our Fundraising Success Blueprint series, where our hope is to kind of dive into and go into in pretty good detail 12 areas of fundraising to not only address each topic but to also provide kind of a complete blueprint so that when you're done with the series you can feel confident in your pivot or confident in your planning. We're definitely big believers that people don't want to hear from just us. They want to hear from their peers in development and in the fundraising space. And I'm really excited to be joined today excuse me, by our panelists. Um, I will go in order. So Erin, who is here today, and Gianna from BronxWorks, we're really excited to have you both. And all of our panelists will tell us a little bit about their organizations and what they do, because they'll do it best. We have Cheryl joining us from Clearbrook. And then we have Alyssa joining us from Hope Through Housing Foundation. We're really excited about it. And today they're going to be covering a little bit about their events, and we'll go into the agenda in a second, and they'll be answering some questions that we got in advance. So if you do have questions, I'll say this a few times, put them in that question and answer box. We have them here and they're captivated. So let's ask the experts while we've got them. And we will be sharing a lot of resources today throughout the call. So and I'll be sending them after the fact too. So with the recording, so you'll have kind of hopefully a robust amount of information to kind of move forward and make some positive things happen for your missions. So I know it kind of sounds crazy that we're going to go through some Zoom tips, but we are. So sometimes our panelists are going to be talking the whole time. Hopefully I will not be talking much at all, which is, for those of you who know me, is a tall order. But if you want to see all the panels and not just kind of the floating talking head, make sure to choose gallery mode. Again, there is a Q&A box and there's a chat box. So both of them are available to you. Both are being monitored by some of my team who are staying off camera, Susanna and Patrick. So just make sure to ask those questions and we'll do our best. If we can't get them answered in live time because we run out of time, somebody will follow up with you from my team at GiveSmart. And then, like I said, we'll be putting those resources in the chat. And so just make sure to take a look and hopefully it'll just kind of help build out your knowledge base. So today, we are going to go through some examples of annual events. So events that you would do, or any type of fundraiser, not just events, any fundraiser that you would do once a year at your organization. So not so much, a monthly raffle or something like that, but really looking at a distinguished event, things of that nature. We're going to be talking about the ins and outs a little bit and also some differentiators. So some things that our panelists did to really stand out, to really kind of find success and certainly a crowded space, in a space that definitely had a major learning curve this year. And then of course we'll have time for those questions. So before we really dive in, we're going to do a poll. And while that is going, I guess I will start in alphabetical order. So Erin and Gianna, do you guys want to tell us a little bit about what BronxWorks does?
Go ahead, Gianna.
Sure. If I could just find the mute unmute button, right? That's the biggest skill I learned all in these past 15 months. My name is Gianna DeLolio. I'm the Director of Advancement and Communications at BronxWorks, and I'm joined by my colleague, Aaron Cipollina, who is our Digital and Content Manager. BronxWorks is a settlement house, and if you're not familiar with that term, we are a social services agency. We're based in the Bronx. We work 100% in the Bronx, providing services, the full array of services to Bronx residents. The organization was founded in 1972 as the Citizens Advice Bureau, and we rebranded in 2009. And as our mission states, from toddlers to seniors, we feed, shelter, teach, and support our neighbors to build a stronger community. And that mission folded right into the challenges and the needs of this of the COVID pandemic. And when you hear about how New York City was so affected by the COVID-19, the Bronx was there was New York City was ground zero, the Bronx was, right in the center of that bullseye.
Absolutely. No, that is, you definitely had quite the year, meeting definitely your mission needs. And thank you for sharing. And so we're going to take just a quick look at the poll, and it looks like this is a shift. I know from what my colleagues and I have seen in terms of people are really starting to talk about live campaigns again, in a big way, which is, I guess I should say it's a surprise. But I know a lot of our panelists have live campaigns planned in the near future, so it shouldn't have been. And so that's encouraging. That's encouraging to see. And I think as we move back into, I saw somebody the other day that said, we're never going back to normal. So maybe the way that we did things before, we can take lessons that we learned in virtual or a hybrid campaign and really apply them to those live campaigns to be better, more efficient, and to raise more money for missions. So to talk a little bit about what we're really talking about when we talk about an annual campaign. We just want to make sure everyone's kind of on the same level. Of course, it means galas and or distinguished events. So I think that's typically what people think about when they think about annual events. It's often a central focus at a lot of nonprofits, big and small. So that is something that I'm sure a lot of our listening a lot of our listening audience is very familiar with. We have a lot of customers, a lot of people we work with who are going to be doing golf outings this year, which again is a fairly standard thing, but we've definitely seen an uptick. We talk about recognition events, committee hosted events, kind of those 5K or endurance events. And then those are all, again, event based. And then we have donation campaigns that people do annually too. So an annual fund, Giving Tuesday comes to mind, things like that. So we are going to go back to Gianna and Aaron. And I guess just tell me a little bit about, what kind of pivots you had to make last year, and kind of some ways that you maybe found success.
Sure. So Kathy is sharing some of the mastheads, right, of the three major campaigns that we have run through GiveSmart in the past year. The first one, the emergency fund, it didn't start off as an emergency fund. We were actually planning for our annual gala. BronxWorks is very, very heavily funded through public and government sources. So the gala, that is that main event that we have each year for unrestricted funding. And so we were in the midst of planning for that event. We found GiveSmart, which we were so excited about because we didn't have, a good dedicated platform for event management. And by late February, early March, it became apparent that if nothing else, the event was going to be postponed. It's really funny because I think about how we were trying to negotiate with the venue. They were like, no, we're only postponing events for March and April. Like, I don't know if anyone knew then, right, that the impact that the pandemic would have on everything. But so we knew we weren't going to have a live event, and we pivoted that momentum to the emergency fund. And when we say emergency fund, it truly was sort of an unrestricted type of campaign that you may run, at your year end, your fiscal year end, to support the work that we were doing. And we were trying to just meet the needs of the community. A lot of that funding went towards things like emergency food. A lot of that funding went towards helping children and their families pivot to this virtual world. BronxWorks was definitely not a work from home virtual type organization. So we had to pivot internally, and we also had to help our participants, whether they were seniors or families, children. So a lot of that funding was to support that as well.
No, I was going to say,
I talk a lot too, sorry.
No, I get it. Yeah, I said earlier, I'm a chatty. Did your donors, obviously you work kind of on the advancement side of things. Did your donors understand? Like to your point at the beginning, I don't think any of us really understood the magnitude of what was ahead of us. But did your donors really respond to kind of a designated fund like that? Was that something that people were really responsive to, or?
Very, very, very surprisingly, or I should say very encouraged, like just the amount of support that we gained from the community. We were also in the press a lot because of the need for emergency, like I'll say emergency food like probably 100 times on this call,
Sure.
but just the need for that. So we had 3 food pantries that operated twice a month, that went to 13, 14 food pantry emergency food distribution sites, and there was a lot of press about that, a lot of press about the unemployment in the Bronx, and a lot of press about people who were already, as it was, while the Bronx was on an upswing, it was the tale of two
Oh, we lost her.
in the borough. And you lost me?
No, you're good. You're back.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. So there was like this upswing of growth and development in the Bronx, but at the same time, there were already people who were food insecure, people who were heavily rent burdened. And when New York pause and the New York City pause went into effect, it really impacted them. So we were very fortunate the answer to your question is the donors were very, very supportive. And maybe even like, I probably shouldn't say this, but like maybe even some of them were a little relieved, like, okay, good, you're not going to have an event. Because again, when this first started, it was clear as mud.
Sure, absolutely. And Alyssa, I see you shaking your head. Did you have people who felt the same way? I feel like you need to, you're like, yeah.
Absolutely. We have, just to introduce myself really quickly, my name is Alyssa. I'm with the Hope Through Housing Foundation. And we work to provide services to residents who live in affordable housing. And so just to add to what Gianna was saying, I think some of our donors who have come to some of our annual events, while we are known for having the event of the season, I think it was a little bit of a relief that some of our sponsors didn't have to fill 10 seats at a table this year. So absolutely agree with that statement.
For sure. And I know, Gianna and Aaron, you both, you did a few different funds, and then you have your first like virtual event, right, coming up in the not so distant future. So how do you feel? I mean, I guess, do you feel like you had a good base to work off of? Do you feel like, oh shoot, we're still learning something new? I guess like where are your feelings at in terms of putting on your first virtual event?
Aaron, would you like to take that?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Aaron. I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm the digital and content manager. And just, real briefly, I kind of have a unique perspective because my first day working with BronxWorks was the day that New York City shut everything down.
Oh.
So since I've walked in, this is really my first experience putting on any kind of large scale event, let alone a virtual event.
Sure.
Having worked in news for a number of years before moving on to BronxWorks. So, I feel very comfortable, and I know that a lot of that is, I think, from a technical standpoint, that's really where I have kind of dug my heels into my claws. It's been really easy, and it's been really helpful working with GiveSmart staff to put on these kind of virtual events. Everything is very user friendly, but there's still that extension for someone who has, a more of a technical mind to be able to go in and customize where I need to. So I feel very comfortable. I can't speak for all of us, but I think our first event is, I think we're really doing a good job. We've started, we've launched, and we're already getting a decent number of commitments from people.
No, that's good. And I know we'll talk a little bit more kind of in depth and look through the pages, but I'm sure your comfort level in putting something out there that you feel confident in is going to, in theory, resonate with the donors that Gianna probably works the most closely with. I am going to shift over to Cheryl, and I saw your eyes get big when Aaron said something, but I don't remember what it was. And I was going to say, I don't remember, but that's okay. Like you were surprised or excited. And so I guess, can you tell us a little bit about what Clearbrook does to kind of kick it off?
Yeah, so Clearbrook works with adults and children with intellectual disabilities. We serve over 8,000 people in the Chicago metropolitan area in about 160 communities. We have 55 group homes for intermediate care facilities, and we're the largest provider of in-home services in the state of Illinois.
Okay. No, that's a good succinct synopsis. So I guess tell us a little bit, because similar to BronxWorks, your gala kind of got shut down at the beginning of kind of everything.
Yeah.
And so did you guys do like pull off a virtual event in a short amount of time, or did you kind of hit pause?
So we definitely hit pause, but we kind of said to our supporters for the gala that, we still need your support. We still need your sponsorship. We still need, and they stepped up to the plate, and we actually raised more money than we had the year before. And I think, it was not a lot of time between when we kind of had to shut down and the gala was, so there wasn't really a lot of time to think. But I also think because our gala attracts a crowd of a, let's say, an older generation, that we were reluctant to go virtual. And I think they were reluctant to go virtual, but they were
Sure.
also reluctant to go on and kind of pivot to doing the auction online, even being in person, carrying around your phone, bidding on items. And I think that COVID, we have to look at that as an opportunity that people understand, rather than having to wait and do it kind of gradually. We kind of had to jump into it. So I
Mhm.
think it's been a huge boon for us in that respect. It's brought in, people have been able to participate from all over the country. We had
Sure.
someone participate in our wine tasting from Hawaii, which, normally they wouldn't fly in for that. So I think GiveSmart is really, it's been a great opportunity to jump into it and not have people say, but wait, I can't do that, or I'm not comfortable with that. Well, it's a time for us to teach them and to get them comfortable with it. And then, when we do eventually go back to in-person events, we're not going to be doing paper and pencil anymore,
Sure.
because everybody's going to have the experience. All the events will have gone through, at least one cycle. And, really GiveSmart's so easy to use. It's just a matter of, sometimes people, of, in any group are afraid to try some new technology, but it really is easy to use. And it's been so helpful. And we've raised so much money just being able to do things virtually.
For sure. I think there's, you talked about kind of that reluctance. I'm sure Alyssa, Gianna, Aaron, you guys can all speak to that too, that people were like, wait a minute, why do I have to do something on the computer? I mean, the unknown, all of it. But as time has gone on, either the hand was forced or people realized that there was a lot of opportunity out there. I think you spoke to that too, that, you know, people from far away who might be Clearbook is an example. There's you help people with their living situation, and so maybe there's family and friends who would love to support or love to be at something, but to your point, they're not going to fly in and then buy a ticket and all the rest of it. That there's opportunities there to really engage with your platform, or obviously, maybe inferring. I guess I'll ask Gianna: did you guys have because New York City was such an epicenter, and it was apparent that things were, nothing was great, but there was a much more acute situation happening. Do you feel like you guys got a lot of supporters maybe from outside of the typical people that you had worked with? Did you have a lot of new people? Did you have people come from far away, or no?
We had a record number of new donors. We saw a definite correlation to that from the press. Again, a lot of press coverage.
Sure.
New York City, again, being, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, being, such a devastated area. And, New York City, years ago, I worked in marketing and advertising, and New York media, while it's local, it's also has a real national presence, which, I think we see more and more. But so we did see support come from all over, and GiveSmart, again, made it very, very easy, because they come to the website. We were in the process of a website reboot and an overhaul. So GiveSmart, our website had some challenges, which I guess that's a different webinar topic. But GiveSmart was like easy, little, succinct URL, text to pledge, no
Sure.
wait load time, secure, things that maybe we take for granted, but things that really helped hold us up, and we were able to capture those donations. We had a very, very small feature on the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell. And the Bronx Works wasn't even mentioned in the piece. It was more about the story of this woman and her children. And the floodgates opened, because I guess people then were contacting the media, and then they went through how could they help, how could they support. And again, GiveSmart came to us at the right time. So we had, it was like that perfect storm in a good way of, we had a strong message, we had some great outreach, of course, in the midst of a pandemic. So, that wasn't ideal, and then this wonderful platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Alyssa, you unmuted, so I feel like you had something to say.
Yeah, I was just going to add even to what Cheryl said, sometimes the concern was, well, what about some of, our older constituents that may not be technology friendly? And I think that was what Gianna had mentioned, what was so easy about GiveSmart. So you don't have to download anything. So I think that was a barrier with some of the other platforms that are out there, that you would have to download an app. And I think that's what made it so user friendly. And even to the success of our event, we had about 850 people who watched our live broadcast from 3 countries and 17 states. So those people normally wouldn't have, probably wouldn't have attended normally, but we were able to reach just so many more because of the ease and simplicity of GiveSmart and being user friendly.
No, and I love that. And I think now, as things maybe aren't felt as acutely, we can look back and try to find, I think I said, flowers from the weeds, or flowers within the weeds yesterday, to say that there were some, record number of donors. That's something that is only going to benefit you moving forward. The opportunity to have things that are kind of secured, like a secure donation opportunity, or a familiarity with a platform, as you look to doing things in person, as many of our listening audience did. There are some gems, or some tools, some lessons that you learned that you're going to take and move forward with. So that's all really great. And then I was going to say, Alyssa, why don't you tell us a little bit about Hope Through
Sure.
Foundation?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned before, we work with residents who live in affordable housing. We're in 3 states, California, Florida, and Texas. And our Delivering Hope campaign this year was in place of our annual Evening of Hope Gala. We were fortunate in that our event is in the end of the year, so we didn't have to pivot right away. We did know that it was going to be all virtual, but we didn't know how we were going to do it. And so, we actually found GiveSmart from another local nonprofit that used it for a golf tournament, and we loved the ease of it as well. And so, as we signed our contract, it was less than 60 days before our event, which normally GiveSmart suggests more than 60 days. So it was a very quick turnaround to really learn the platform. But as we continue to spend more and more time in there were just so many different tools and features that made it so much easier for us to be able to add things to our campaign. And so what we decided to do was a 10-day campaign leading up to a live broadcast that was in place of our normal, sit down dinner. So each day we added a new video featuring telling resident stories and about our programs. And then we led up to our live broadcast, which was the culmination of our silent auction. We were asking for live donations, and all of the tools that GiveSmart provides with the presentation mode made it so easy. And what was really interesting throughout our campaign was that our giving page changed as our campaign went on. So as you look at the page as it is today, it looked a little bit different, where we typically had our video feature and our donations at the top. But then as we transitioned to our live broadcast, we wanted our donors to have the most easiest opportunities to be able to donate. And so it was very easy for us to make those changes, to stay fluid throughout our campaign and as we led into the live broadcast. And one of the things I'd like to add here is that our the champions feature, if you haven't learned about it, it's a really, really great tool for your ambassadors, your volunteers, your community members, to really help spread the word about your organization in the community. we found that helped us raise even additional dollars. And so as we had more individuals join as champions, it really helped drive our fundraising and our silent auction as well. So it was overall just a really great experience. And because we had such a great response from this, we will also be having a very similar format this year, hybrid, where we're going to have a small in-person reception for our top sponsors and top donors, and then continue with the live broadcast.
And I liked, it's nice perspective that you have, because I mean, even though you, I guess, had 60 days to kind of stand it up. So I guess that you guys are all kind of in the same boat, but you knew you had a little bit of runway before you had to kind of make a choice or make things happen. And I liked what you said about champions too, that I think I know a lot of our customers have leveraged their high level volunteers, leveraged their dedicated volunteers in helping to bridge the gap from some of, some of the loss that, while a lot of things can happen virtually, if maybe you're choosing not to do ticket sales or something like that, inevitably there is going to be a gap. So I think that that's really important. But to Cheryl's point, sometimes you raise more than you had expected and had budgeted. We did have a question come in that I think would be good right now before we transition to kind of some of the special elements that you guys incorporated. And I'm reading it off my phone. So it says, we're a tiny museum and a virtual gala just sounds really intimidating. And I think that happens with a lot of people are like, we have a staff of 4, like what, or 2, or we're volunteer led. What are we able to pull this off? And they asked specifically, like, how did you feel the night? And probably like, what did timing look like? So I don't know, that kind of question could be tossed to all of you. So Alyssa,
sure. And I can start really quickly. We were in the very same boat. We're like, how do we do this? We didn't have, the knowledge of what does even a live broadcast look like? How do we do this? Are we on our phones? Are we on Zoom? And to be quite honest, it really was then turning to our volunteers to say, what are some ideas? How do we do this? And through a collaboration with one of our local churches, they provided their staff who had the expertise, as the church was providing a weekly service online broadcasting. They already had this set up. They had the expertise. So it really was truly a partnership with those who already had that. And, being able to, we were fortunate that everything was donated in kind to us. But finding out who are those local experts, and even with our videos, we were able to find someone local who worked with us on the costs. Were very inexpensive. So really look to see who's out there and who on your board may have connections, or in your ambassadors who may have connections to those who can help provide those services, either free of charge or at a deep discount.
For sure. I didn't even consider, not everyone has an Aaron. With his broadcast experience. So, but to go to somebody who's kind of doing it anyway, and perhaps has a charitable, and you probably partner with based on kind of what your mission is, that's really smart. I guess Cheryl or Gianna or Aaron, do you have anything to add?
I feel like it's, using GiveSmart, it just makes it so easy to do it with a small staff and to reach so many other people. And it's just, I think it's just a great way to reach so many people. Like I said, we have a pretty broad reach, but we were still able to reach even further than we normally do. So I think even with a small staff, all you need is someone to be able to basically run it from their computer. They can be doing it in their basement. They can be doing it anywhere. You don't need a lot of people to do GiveSmart. When we're in person, we need to bring like our maintenance people to bring everything over, and we need this, and we need all these volunteers. And wow, it was so easy and so much less exhausting. And I think it was just as fun. And we're limiting our events to an hour when they're online, just because people are kind of sick of the whole online thing. And with our wine tasting, we actually had the winemaker get on and talk about each of the wines that they received. Some people, obviously, we had them shipped. Some people picked them up at the store. And then they had an option to purchase beer. So then we had the beer vendor on, who actually was really entertaining, and people loved him and wanted him to stay on a little longer. So he did. But it was really a lot of fun, and to see people's reaction to it, a lot of laughing. We got a lot of pictures. I think people were thrilled to be able to do something, maybe that, they haven't done in a long time, is to be able to kind of laugh with other people and enjoy an evening and kind of feel like maybe they're not out, but maybe feel like they were out a little bit. And, it was actually the wine tasting was so much fun.
Yeah, no, I think that to your point, and I think, Alyssa, you talked about how you did videos kind of 10 days in advance leading up, that I think some of the elements that we've seen people do, or people do well, is that perhaps, a 4-hour night would involve a program and, pickup and drinking and dancing and mission videos and all of that sort of stuff. And so if you pull some of that out and you extend the timeline, that some of it can look, you can still have all the great things that you did, and the lift feels a little lighter because you're kind of extending it out, and you're kind of repurposing your timeline, I guess, from your traditional sense and looking at it differently. But I think that hour to hour and a half is probably where we see people have the most success and the least amount of drop off. Gianna and Aaron, is that what Braxworks is kind of planning?
Yeah, so we're actually planning, our annual gala this year will be happening virtually. We're putting together a program that's just a half hour long.
Okay.
We looked at some similar organizations around the area, what they had done for their virtual galas, and kind of looked at what we had done for our past in-person galas to try to come up with essentially a run of show like you do for an in-person event, just to come up with a run of show and have, line by line. I literally put a rundown together. Even an hour and a half live news broadcast is meticulously planned for hours before it goes on the air. So coming from that experience, that was something that I knew that we needed to do real quickly. And I think that that's helped kind of guide us with our upcoming gala in terms of, how long is each speaker going to have? And then that has helped us with writing speeches. I think it's been very helpful. And, Alyssa, I love the idea of putting out, doing kind of a 10-day process. I think that's a real smart way to do that. And I don't know if Gianna has anything to add.
Well, I think that, the planning as far as the mechanics, and I noticed a question, I've been looking at the chat and the Q&A, it's something that we definitely talked about and struggled with is, okay, so we have GiveSmart, which gives us, the home, right? It gives us the base. But then we'll have this video, we'll have this program, and then how do we broadcast it? So, Aaron could talk a little bit about that, but that meticulous planning is so important for us. And I'm sure it only happens at our organization, where you sit down and you make a decision and you have a plan. And then like a week later, you get the, but can we do this? And how about this? And with a virtual event, it's a little bit, of course you need to pivot, right? If some, large sponsor comes through or just some amazing something comes through, but at the same time, because you are producing something in advance, you can pivot, but you have to very carefully pivot. It's not quite as easy as just saying, okay, you get the podium next, and they're going to have to hold dessert until 9:05 instead of 9 o'clock.
I should also mention for our taped virtual program, we're taping everything in advance. We're not going to have anyone live. It happens anytime you're on a Zoom call, someone drops out, and it's a lot harder to remix it on the fly when someone drops out, as opposed to taping everything and then playing it down. So
And
that's also been sorry, Alyssa, and that has also a bit of I don't want to say it's been a challenge, because we want to have these late breaking things, but we also can't change too much once we've set the plan in motion.
Sure.
So it's a matter of building out ways to dig yourself out of holes when things happen.
And you know, with the live events, right, we've all, and I'm sure everyone who is, you know, part of this call today, we all have had that, you know, it's the thing that you're really excited about, but really scared of, that big sponsor that comes in the day before, or, you know, that VIP who decides that he is going to fill his table after all. And, you know, when you're planning a virtual gala, those huge challenges seem to be a lot easier to fix, because, you know, you kind of roll that over to the venue, or you get more tables, or you always have more food available. But again, with the virtual, what we're learning with the virtual event of this magnitude, and you know, my colleagues probably are chuckling because they're like, and you guys still have a lot more to learn because you haven't had it yet, is that you have to have the plan, and you have to have a lot decided ahead of you, and then you have to figure out, well, where are those pivot points? In fact, we were talking about one of those today.
Sure.
So
Well, you made me flashback when you said dropping dessert at 9:05 instead of 9. Like, I have very vivid memories of those kind of conversations, or adding in a table because we forgot this thing, or someone brought someone we weren't expecting and we have to make them happy. Yeah, all of those things. So I think you all kind of speak to the fact that while a virtual event is new, or a hybrid event certainly is new, or going into a live space, you know, after what we've all lived through as a global community is new, that there are going to be stressors, and there's going to be elements that like used to take time that aren't going to take time in the same way, or that are going to be stressful or stressful in one arena and in a virtual arena won't be. And I think that that's important, and something that I've heard kind of echo throughout when we've had conversations with customers, that, you know, they were maybe afraid to take a bite of the pie, but they discovered, you know, they got apple instead of cherry, and it's okay. And I think that those are just really, really, really important things that you're kind of all echoing. I know I want to have time to share some of your pages. So I'm going to put up a poll in a hot second, but this coming soon element. So the out of the box elements, like I mentioned before, we have this blueprint series. We're going to have more peers from different organizations talking about really the ins and outs of an auction, the ins and outs of a program, the ins and outs of, you know, some of those elements that are typical with like fundraisers. So we're not going to dive too much into that right now, but we will kind of talk a little bit about, you know, some annual event opportunities, like how did people highlight their mission? How did our panelists kind of use that call to action? You know, were there some volunteer recognition or donor recognition opportunities? Peer-to-peer, which Alyssa had sort of mentioned, that she added champions into something that typically wouldn't have had a peer-to-peer element, that champions is what we call peer-to-peer at GiveSmart, and then kind of extending the timeline, which Alyssa had talked about. But before I do that, I do want to put up a quick poll. Maybe, I don't know where it appeared, so I'm not going to put it up. We're going to just go on in to your sites. And Alyssa, I will start with you since I didn't start with you at the beginning. Oh, then the poll appears.
Go ahead.
No, I will. So I just was curious what annual events people do. And then I guess, Alyssa, why don't you start with talking about kind of some of the annual events that you do at Hope Through Housing Foundation.
Sure. So talked a little bit about our Delivering Hope, which is in place of our annual Evening of Hope Gala. Also, we do an annual donor and volunteer recognition event, in which this year what we were not able to do. So we decided that we were going to use our GiveSmart platform to be able to thank our donors, and in turn, actually were successful in receiving a few donations, which we did not anticipate. So our Circle of Hope was just a super simple way for us just to say thank you. And we did a video highlighting all of the work we had done in that crazy year of 2020. And it made it, there we go. Exit out, I have this poll. Made it a super easy way for us to say thank you. And again, reaching people all over the country that I don't think would have ever come to our in-person virtual recognition event.
Sure.
So again, that return on being able to reach just so many more people. And I think it's really making us think about how we conduct different stewardship opportunities throughout the year, especially with our GiveSmart platform. In addition to that, we are planning an in-person Women of Hope event. This will be our first in-person event since 2019. So we're really excited, happening this summer. And it's actually the first ticketing event that I'll be learning to use with GiveSmart as well.
Sure. Sure. No, I think that I love what you said, to go back to that volunteer recognition, you said you had kind of people from all over, and that's something you typically would do, right?
Yes,
Um,
in person.
do you feel, and I'm sure our other development kind of friends, all of you work with how important stewardship and recognition is, but do you feel that it was even more important this year, like because you didn't have, I guess, that face to face, or you didn't have the opportunity necessarily to steward along the way? Because also when things are a little bit on fire, I know from my past experience that sometimes you neglect, that thank you piece. So was this kind of a nice way? I mean, did people respond well? Like looking back, is it something that you were able to kind of increase engagement on? I'm just curious.
Absolutely. One of the things that we hear, it's as development officers, is that you really want to have good relationships with your donors and not just be transactional. And so they're just not hearing for you every time you're asking for money. And so this piece is probably the most important. And we received, so many just great responses from our donors, our vendors, our volunteers, just thanking us for the work that we do and allowing them to be a part of it, right? And so that was very rewarding, in that this was a very easy thing for us to do, and GiveSmart made it super easy for us to just add our video. We added an option to donate. We moved it down below the video, but it made it just that much easier for us to then continue reaching out to our donors to say thank you.
For sure. And I see you have the monthly donation option. Do you guys get a lot of recurring donors?
We have a few.
Okay.
But I think we've had a few that have asked us, how do I do a monthly? So I just don't know if it's something that they just might have not seen there, but we have a few that have started, because we've only been with GiveSmart for about 6 months now. Sure. And so we're actually in the process of transitioning all of our former giving pages to now GiveSmart.
Okay. And yeah, and I'm sure with time too, it'll be nice. I don't remember if it was you who mentioned text to giver. Braxworks, you have a text to give on one of your videos, right? Am I missing? I think so. Yeah, right here.
Yes. We use that. In fact, one of our recent board or committee meetings, they're like, we're going to need text to donate. And I'm like, we have that. We have that. And I think it's great, because what I love about the text to donate is that, for me, right, I'm like right on that I want to say that verge of, I really try to keep up with technology personally and professionally. What I love about the text to donate is that where it's going, right? It's not like this blind text to donate, sure. For maybe for a different type of donor, the younger donors. I don't want to always say younger, but maybe more technology savvy donors. They're comfortable with a text to donate and, with some kind of virtual wallet. I love that this links back to the page, right? Sure. Because people are text to donating and they're using their smartphone. And then again, the page comes up and your mobile page looks just as good as it does on the PC or the tablet. So I love that. I love that they can see, we don't have that big, I'd like to think we do in New York City, but we don't have that big brand name awareness like the Red Cross. So sure. When we're doing the text to donate, I like that they get immersed back in our campaign page.
Right. And the keyword is your organization. So then, yeah, it all ties back, and to be able to see something on brand. We hear that a lot too. And I'm sure, perhaps Cheryl and Alyssa, you guys feel this way too. I mean, Alyssa, I would assume that you do, because you're moving everything over. So you probably feel real strongly about the fact that everything can be branded and it's easy to stand up. But, we hear that often, that people really, really do want to own what they're putting out there, and certain other, in other cases, they haven't had that opportunity. And I think it's a reason that people kind of come to us You had made me think of something mission specific. And now I can't remember what it was. Text to donate. Well, I mean, your whole donation campaign is around, obviously serving a very critical and acute emergency need. But I guess, champions. You guys had done, Aaron and Gianna, you guys had done a champions, but it was kind of a version because we didn't have peer-to-peer kind of functionality out there yet, right?
Right. So we had gone to our GiveSmart rep when we were getting ready to launch for the New York City Marathon. We for the last 10 years, I think we've had runners who we've been an official charity partner of the marathon in New York, and we've been using a variety of different peer-to-peer sort of software. But we loved GiveSmart so much. We had such a positive interaction with our emergency fund that we went to our GiveSmart rep and we said, is there a way to do peer-to-peer on GiveSmart? And while they hadn't at the time, it wasn't there. You can see this is we also did something similar for our Building Better Futures fund, but we discovered it first on the marathon, where we were able to set all of our runners and our board members up as items.
Sure.
Which gave them a page similar to any kind of peer-to-peer fundraising software you might use. And we were able to have the board members kind of have a small competition. We have a number of board members who are very, they're very digitally connected, and they want to be able to kind of compete with each other on who can raise the most money.
Love that.
We formulated this idea where everyone would get an item page. And Kathy, if you go over to the item page back, I'm so sorry.
No, I said earlier, pass me around, tell me where to take it. Yeah.
So it also, we were able to get pictures of all of our board members. And this just, visually, I think is really exciting.
Absolutely.
About a month later, Champions got introduced. So we're excited to use the Champions module for the 2021 marathon.
Absolutely. No, and I love, it's nice, I would imagine, and I think, Cheryl, you probably have some experience with this too, that it's nice to be able to have something that can kind of grow with your need. Because while this past year has presented needs that I think were very unpredictable, to say the least, I do love that you said, to, I guess, toot our own horns, that you called and were like, we need to do this thing. How do we do it? You don't have a thing that we can use. And they're like, well, we do. It's just going to be a little bit kind of different before we were able to kind of do that product release. But Cheryl, we did have a question about kind of the presentation idea. Are you guys using presentation? Are you doing a live event? Or are you doing pre-recorded for your gala that's tomorrow? And for all of our nonprofit friends, the fact that Cheryl's here when they have an event tomorrow, big deal.
Yes, it's a live event.
Okay. And you're going to be embedding it straight into your GiveSmart page with presentations, or are you using something else?
I think we're using something else.
Oh, totally fair. But I know, Alyssa, you had put obviously your videos kind of on there, and Aaron, are you guys planning on doing the same thing?
Yeah, we will be using the presentation feature. We'll be broadcasting the virtual program via YouTube Live, but we'll be embedding that link into the presentation feature on the Gala GiveSmart page.
No, that's great. And I think, we have a lot of people, who did, again, everyone was kind of figuring it out. So I think some people, Cheryl, are kind of providing 2 links. But Aaron, I think a good majority, as time has gone on, are embedding, because if you have like a fancy YouTube, this is where my technology, Aaron, outshines me. But if you have fancy YouTube, you can do it live, but you get a link and then you can embed it in the page, which I think is really a powerful tool, and is how I think a lot of people are doing it. But Cheryl, I did want to ask, so you have, the donate option here too, but you guys do your auction is live now, right? Even though your event isn't until tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And were you guys doing that before?
We were doing it before. And one of the things I love about GiveSmart is, we go to if we do a live event, we put signs up, we might put, the sponsor names on a screen. This way, every single time somebody comes to bid on something, they see who's sponsoring us. So the sponsors, I feel, get a lot more bang for their buck.
Sure.
And the other thing I love about GiveSmart is when you bid on something and you've been outbid. I mean, how many times have people blown their budget because they get that little ding and they're like, I am not going to be outbid. Whereas if it's on paper, you forget about it and you walk away and you realize, oh my God, they closed the auction and now, I've lost the item I wanted. But
Right.
I mean, I know there's that surge of adrenaline, especially with people who are super competitive and they're like, I'm only going to spend this much, but then they get that ding and they're like, oh no, I have to win this item. So items go for so much more than they would have just because people's competitive side comes out. And for me, that's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love too that you guys kind of have, talk about mission centric. And I think all of you, highlighted, mission videos that you've been sharing in advance, or obviously those emergency funds were very mission driven and mission centered. But, some of your events here are, kind of that fund a need idea so that you can donate, for a medical bed or for, Special Olympics participation, things like that. Which I think is powerful because sometimes, if people lose out or they see something and they're not as interested or they're getting outbid and they're like, I've maxed out, that they have other opportunities. And I guess as we close out, is there anything else that you guys wanted to kind of share or talk about, or any other great mission deliverables you've done, or anything like that you're like, Kathy, you missed something I was really excited to talk about. So I guess I'll kick it off with BronxWorks if there's anything that you feel strongly that you just want to share, a lesson learned.
I did want to mention that with and I don't know, this is directly related to GiveSmart, but for all of our peers, I love the silent auction. That wasn't something that we were, for a couple of reasons, we weren't able to offer this year. So what we did do for sponsorships, again, how do you set yourself apart?
Sure.
How do you stand out? Especially, when you're in a major market, there's a lot of virtual events. You're always worried about, that virtual event fatigue. So what we did was a few add-ons, VIP events just for the sponsors, because also for the virtual gala, we're not charging. So anybody can join us, anybody could participate, which is what we're seeing, in a lot of our peer organizations, that individual registration is typically, open to anyone. So we put together these VIP events, leaning on some board members who have some great connections, and then also with a group that we've been working with. So just before the gala and then just after the gala, we'll have two very different VIP events, and those will be live, very similar to this format. We'll use a webinar feature. The first event focuses on two baseball legends. We have.
I pulled it up because I saw him yesterday.
Great.
And I was so excited because baseball, my favorite sport, but also the author of Bridgerton, and I was like, this is so cool. But yes, go ahead.
So again, when you talk about, and I think Alyssa talked about how you have to really, for a virtual event, you have to lean on the connections you have and try to make use of them the best that you can. So one of our board members actually works with Julia Quinn, which was great and very, very exciting. And then we work with this group who represents, the sports legends. So we're hoping that drums up that sponsorship excitement, and each sponsor can attend both if they like. It does make for a longer day, but it's up to them, how they'll participate. So we're excited about that. We're starting to get some good feedback, and it definitely makes it a little bit of a technical pivot, but that's why we have Aaron.
And that's right.
Go
ahead, Aaron.
Being able to put all the tickets all the sponsorships as different tickets that people can buy. It's just the interface is just so easy to see. We haven't received any technical difficulty questions yet, so that's always good for everybody.
Step in the right direction, and that you gave people the opportunity to, they see it before they go to register. No, and I think we've seen that a lot in some of the other customer kind of sharing that we've seen, is that, people are adding, special things or VIP happy hours, or, you get a cocktail kit that we're going to deliver to you for that kind of face-to-face interaction, distant interaction. And I would say, if I were to pick one differentiator, that's something that I have seen in my time here that has kind of been the difference between, success and maybe kind of struggling to get there, it's been doing special VIP experiences, frankly, because I think it makes people, it opens up your donation bag a little bit wider at the top. And it also provides an opportunity for people who, schedule wise or, kid wise or dog wise or whatever, to be able to kind of engage and donate still and feel like they're getting something, and exclusivity is a big deal. So I will switch over to Hope Through Housing. Is there anything that you were like, I wanted to talk about this and Kathy didn't let me?
Well, just so many great things. Just a couple of things. One, the text messaging feature. You guys will probably go in depth about this on another presentation, but I think that was really one of the tools that really simplified things, communicating with our donors as they're live in the event, being able just to send some really, the timing, we scheduled specific text messages throughout our live presentation, and it really worked well. And then just the ease of closing out our event. I mean, we've all had those in-person events where you get, you have pledge cards and paper auction forms, so it's like, we're never going back to, paper auction bidding. We'll definitely stick to virtual. But then this was probably the first year that we only had one unpaid pledge, and it was $50. And we raised over $750,000. So to have one unpaid pledge was just absolutely huge compared to prior years. And so the reporting, everything.
And the follow-up on that, I think, is my experience from, one to the other is, the follow-up was a lot easier because you had to kind of capture that information for sure. No,
absolutely.
I think that, and that's, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. And that's something that I think sometimes, again, people don't really think about is being really important. And then when it's happening, you're like, the time save here allowed me to do other things to support my mission.
Exactly.
The fact that I'm chasing people down who are willing to give, just we can't connect. Important. And then Cheryl, I'll end with you. And then I have maybe one or two questions and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I just, like I think Alyssa said, the text feature is amazing because people get their reminders, things are closing out. I've been at events where people have said they closed out the auction and I meant to go see because I wanted to be the biggest. And I know I focus on that, but that's a big part of, going to a live event to me is the excitement of winning an auction item. And I think that's why people bid on things, is they love the excitement of winning or, bidding against somebody. But I can't even imagine going back to paper. As Alyssa said, it makes it so much easier to collect your money. It makes it so much easier to close things out. GiveSmart is a big game changer. And I remember when we first started our very first event with GiveSmart, and it's been 3 years, and it's just, the way it's evolved and how we kind of had to jump into it this year, it's just been amazing. And so grateful that we started this journey 3 years ago.
Well, that we are too. And I will say, to close it out, did any of you do, are any of you doing a hybrid event, or did you do virtual or live? No hybrids. No. And so someone asked a question specifically about hybrid events. So I'll just read it and I'll answer from based on other experience. But when people are live streaming an in-person event, are you providing, different activities targeted just to the virtual audience, or ones that allow the virtual attendees to interact with on site? I know we've done some other webinars, and I'll make sure to share some of that in the follow-up email. But I think we have seen basically they're live streaming what's happening for those people in person. So perhaps, Alyssa, that's what you're planning on doing. But in the event of there's a big paddle raise or something like that, and you don't want to navigate that through GiveSmart, people have done proxy bidders or kind of that sort of thing, which I think is really important. And with one more minute to spare before I say a very sincere thank you, in general, and you guys can all kind of give a yes or a no, but it sounds like you've had, hugely successful events. You have donors who are giving and giving and giving. Do you feel like in general, corporations are excited to support virtual events, or do you feel like there's a hesitancy and they want it to be live? But I think the answer I got from most of you was they're excited about it. Anybody?
Very excited. Yes.
Okay, good. You're like, yes.
Yes. And just to add to your about the hybrid event, we intentionally separated it just because when you're talking through logistics of recording live elements with people who are online. It just, we intentionally separated it just so that we could provide two better experiences. And that's what we're looking forward to this year, a good in-person and a good live.
No, and I mean, for sure. And that's a different kind of lift, but it's nice that you had the plan. You've had time to thoughtfully plan for that. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of people do too, as time is ticking on, that now that this is kind of the place that we live in, people are able to kind of think about it. So with that, I'm going to close it out because we're back at the top of the hour. Thank you so much to Erin and Gianna and Alyssa and Cheryl for being so generous with your time. I know there's a lot of questions we didn't get to. And so we'll make sure to have someone follow up, and we will also be sharing all of our panelists' emails with you today. So if you had something specific you wanted to ask them, that you have the opportunity to do so. So with that, thank you so much. And everyone should have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.